Ever heard of a place so beautiful they call it heaven on earth?
I think I have.
Well, today we're diving deep
Cool.
into Chitral.
Okay.
It's this valley in northern Pakistan.
Beautiful.
Absolutely stunning. Beauty.
Ah.
It's facing some serious challenges because of climate change.
Yeah, I'm hearing more and more about that.
Yeah, it's getting rough out there.
Yeah.
We've got these excerpts from a research paper
Okay.
all about how vulnerable Chitral is to climate change.
Interesting.
And get this,
Right.
the author is actually from Chitral.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just data points, you know?
So we get like a personal perspective.
Exactly.
That's really valuable.
It is. So before we get into all the problems,
Yeah.
set the scene for us.
Okay.
What makes Chitral so special?
Oh, Chitral.
What makes heaven on earth?
Okay, so picture this, right?
Okay.
Towering mountains,
Love it.
covered in snow and ice,
Beautiful.
lush green valleys,
Wow.
carved out by the Chitral River.
I've seen pictures. It's amazing.
It is, and meadows,
Sure.
just bursting with wildflowers.
That sounds idyllic.
It is, it really is, or it was.
Right, because this research paper,
Yeah.
it doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No.
What's the biggest threat to this beautiful place?
Well, one of the scariest things they have to deal with is GLOFs.
GLOFs.
Yeah.
What is that?
Glacial Lake Outburst
That
Floods.
sounds terrifying.
They are, so basically as the temperatures rise,
Yeah.
the glaciers melt super fast,
Makes sense.
and they form these huge lakes
Okay.
dammed up by ice and debris.
Oh, wow.
And these natural dams, they're really unstable.
Oh.
And when they break, it's just catastrophic.
Like a tsunami, but in the mountains?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So is there an example in the research
Yeah.
that shows how bad these GLOFs can be?
They talk about the Sonagar Valley,
Okay.
completely devastated by a GLOF.
Wow.
It was this vibrant, fertile place. And then,
A barren wasteland now.
oh my gosh,
Everyone had to leave?
because of one event, one GLOF, yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And it keeps happening.
Oh, no.
Like just in the last few years,
Oh, gosh.
2023 and July of 2024.
Really?
Huge GLOFs turned the Chitral River into this raging torrent.
It's hard to even imagine.
Wiped out everything in its path.
Like a whole community disappearing.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah.
But the research also mentions it's not just global warming.
Right. There are other things going on
Yeah.
that make Chitral even more vulnerable.
Like deforestation.
Okay, so explain that one to me.
How does cutting down trees make flooding worse?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
So think of trees like anchors for the soil, right?
Right,
Roots
yeah.
holding everything together
Right.
when you cut down all the trees.
Especially on hillsides, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The soil is just exposed.
Oh, right.
So heavy rain comes...
Washes the soil into the river.
Exactly.
Yep.
So the riverbed rises, making flooding more likely.
So without trees, the water just rushes down the mountains, carrying all that soil and debris with it.
Exactly.
And that makes the GLOFs even worse. It's like a
me.
double whammy.
Yeah,
Climate change creates the potential for GLOFs,
right.
and then deforestation makes them even more destructive.
And it's happening really fast.
How fast are we talking?
The research says Chitral has lost like over 11% of its forest cover in just a few decades.
That's a lot.
It is a huge problem.
And then there's that whole timber mafia thing.
Don't get me started.
The research mentions that corrupt officials, too.
Ugh, it's always about the money.
Yeah. How do they fit into this whole mess
Basically, they're just thinking about short-term profits.
and not the long-term consequences?
Exactly. The health of the environment doesn't matter to them.
So they're making a bad situation worse.
Way worse, human greed is a powerful force.
It's sad, but it's true.
It is.
So we've got these devastating floods, but
Yeah.
it sounds like climate change is messing with Chitral in other ways, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What else is going on?
The weather is just getting weirder and weirder.
Okay. How so?
Summers are way hotter.
Yeah.
Winters are getting less and less snow.
Really?
Yeah.
Less snow?
Yeah.
Huh. But you'd think that would mean less water, right?
You'd think so, but it's not that simple.
What's happening then?
So instead of snow melting gradually in the spring and summer,
Okay.
you get these sudden downpours.
Oh, I see.
And the ground can't absorb all that water.
Especially with the deforestation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So more flooding.
Yeah, flash flooding on top of the GLOFs.
It sounds like a vicious cycle.
It is. Climate change just makes everything worse.
So you've got this erratic weather,
Right.
more flooding, deforestation.
Yeah.
And it's just all connected.
And it all adds up to a really challenging situation for Chitral.
It does. It sounds pretty dire.
Yeah.
Like, is there any hope for this place?
There is,
Well,
actually.
good.
The research talks about some solutions, too.
Okay, well, that's what we'll explore in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good.
We'll look at some ideas for managing water flow,
Okay.
mitigating the flooding, trying to make things better.
I'm interested to hear about that.
So we're back, and we're really getting into how climate change is affecting life in Chitral.
It's not just those big dramatic floods either, right?
Right. The research mentions some slower changes too.
Yeah, stuff that might not make the headlines.
Exactly. So what else is climate change doing to this region?
Well, one of the biggest things is it's disrupting agriculture.
That makes sense. Chitral has such a rich farming tradition.
Yeah, for centuries, people have depended on the land.
But how exactly is climate change messing with their ability to farm?
It all comes down to the rain, or the lack of it.
Okay, explain that one to me.
They used to have these predictable monsoon rains for irrigation.
Reliable like clockwork.
Exactly, but climate change has thrown that all out of whack.
So no more predictable monsoons.
It's like a roulette wheel now. Sometimes it pours, sometimes it's bone dry.
That must make it impossible to plan anything.
It does. Farmers don't know when to plant, when to harvest.
The research uses the term erratic to describe the rainfall.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
So erratic rainfall equals big problems for agriculture.
Huge problems. And then there's the heat.
Right, because temperatures are rising too.
Exactly. Some crops just can't take it.
Like what? Give me an example.
Apricots, apples, they've thrived in Chitral for generations.
Because of that perfect climate.
Yeah, but now it's getting too hot for them.
That's got to be devastating. Those crops are more than just food.
You're right. They're part of the culture, the history.
So what happens when those crops start to fail?
Well, first off, people lose their livelihoods.
The farmers, the people who depend on those crops.
Exactly. And food prices go up. Everyone feels
The
that.
food shortages, maybe even malnutrition.
It's a real possibility, yeah.
And it's not just crops, right? The research mentions livestock too.
You're right. The animals are struggling too.
How so?
Less rain means less fodder for them to graze on.
And the hotter temperatures can't be good for them either.
Definitely not. It can lead to heat stress, even disease outbreaks.
So it's this whole chain reaction.
Exactly.
Climate change affects the crops, which affects the livestock, which
Yeah.
affects the people.
It really shows how connected everything is.
It's not just an environmental issue, it's about people's lives.
Their livelihoods, their food, their way of life.
Are they just giving up? Or are they trying to adapt?
Some people are leaving, migrating to cities to find work.
Leaving their homes, their history?
It's a tough decision, but they feel they have no choice.
And the ones who stay, what are they doing?
Some are trying new crops, things that can handle the heat better.
Smart, so adapting to the new reality.
Others are changing their farming practices.
Trying to conserve water, maybe.
Exactly, but the research makes one thing clear.
What's that?
Without tackling climate change itself, these adaptations won't be enough.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg.
Yeah, you gotta fix the underlying problem.
So it's a pretty bleak picture.
It is, but there are some bright spots.
Oh, good. I was hoping you'd say that.
There are communities taking action, coming up with solutions.
Give me an example. I need some hope here.
There's this one story from the Ayun Valley.
Okay, what happened there?
The community banded together to fight illegal logging.
Taking a stand against the timber mafia.
Exactly. They understood the link between deforestation and flooding.
So they were protecting their homes, their futures?
It was about more than just trees. It was about survival.
That's inspiring. People taking charge, making a difference.
It shows what's possible when communities come together.
So we've got local action, but what about the bigger picture?
Global climate change. Yeah, that's the elephant in the room.
The research doesn't shy away from that, does it?
It's very direct. It says we need to cut emissions drastically.
So all those international agreements, the push for renewable energy,
It's not just talk. It's absolutely crucial for places like Chitral.
those global efforts could actually help these communities.
They could be the difference between survival and disaster.
Okay, so we've got local action, global action. What about the government?
The Pakistani government, well, the research is pretty critical of them.
What do they say? Spill the tea.
They say the government isn't doing enough, especially about deforestation.
They're not taking it seriously enough.
Not really. There's a disconnect between the urgency of the situation and the government's response.
So we've got these communities struggling,
Try to adapt.
the global community trying to reduce emissions,
Yeah.
but the Pakistani government is kind of dragging its feet.
It's a frustrating situation. A lot of people are let down.
So where do we go from here? It feels like a tangled mess.
It is complex, but maybe we can start untangling it in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds like a plan. We'll look at some more solutions, some ways forward. We've come a long way on this deep dive,
We have.
from those incredible mountain peaks to the very real threats Chitral is facing.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
But this research paper doesn't just leave us hanging, right?
No, definitely not.
It actually offers some solutions.
Some hope for the future.
That's what I want to hear, so tell me.
Lay it on me.
What can be done? What are some of the things they suggest?
Well, first off, they say there's no quick fix.
No silver bullet.
Nope, it's going to take a lot of different actions.
Because the problems are so complex.
Exactly, local and global.
So we need to think big and small.
Yeah, think globally, act locally, right?
I like that. So what about those local solutions?
The research really emphasizes community engagement.
Getting the people involved.
Exactly, they know the land better than anyone.
They've been living there for centuries.
So they're a valuable resource.
But what does that look like in practice?
Well, the research gives some examples.
Okay, like what?
Communities are replanting forests, for one thing.
Getting those roots back in the soil.
Yeah, helping to stabilize those hillsides.
Makes sense. What else?
They're building small-scale irrigation systems.
So they can control the water better.
Exactly, adapting to those unpredictable rains.
It's amazing how resourceful they are.
It is, and some communities are even creating early warning systems for GLOFs.
How do they do that?
They use their knowledge of the mountains to try and predict when those floods might happen.
So they can evacuate, get to safety.
Exactly, they're taking their fate into their own hands.
That's incredible, but those are still small-scale efforts.
Yeah, local solutions can only go so far.
What about the bigger problem?
Climate change itself.
Yeah, what does the research say about that?
They're very clear, we need global action.
So all those international agreements, reducing emissions,
And that's the key, it has to happen on a global scale.
so those efforts could actually make a difference in Chitral.
They could save Chitral, literally.
It's all connected.
It is. The fate of these communities is tied to global action.
But the research also criticizes the Pakistani government, right?
Yeah, they say the government isn't doing enough.
So it's not just a global problem, it's a national problem too.
Absolutely. The government needs to step up.
What specifically are they failing to do?
They need stronger policies on deforestation, for one thing.
And they need to act faster.
There's a sense of urgency that's missing.
So we've got these communities doing what they can.
Right.
The global community needs to do its part.
Reduce those emissions.
And the Pakistani government needs to fill in the gaps.
Provide support, create effective policies.
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is, but it's our shared responsibility.
So where do we go from here? What's the takeaway?
Well, the research highlights one more thing.
Okay, what's that?
Education. The author believes that's crucial.
Teaching the next generation about climate change.
Exactly, giving them the knowledge and tools to be part of the solution.
So it's about empowering young people.
It's about giving them hope for the future.
I like that. It's not just about doom and gloom.
No, it's about action. It's about taking charge.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
We've learned so much about Chitral,
A beautiful place facing some serious challenges
but we've also seen resilience.
and hope for the future.
We've seen what's possible when people come together.
To protect their homes, their communities.
And for you, dear listener, we hope this has inspired you.
To think about your own role in this.
What choices can you make to create a more sustainable future?
Even small actions can make a difference.
Every bit counts.
It does. Let's all work together to protect our planet.
Our shared heaven on earth.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep learning, stay curious, and let's keep the conversation going.